In the northwest, the virgin land upon a lotus blossom branch. Your great powers brightly shone, the lotus form so widely known. Dakinis around you circulate, your deeds I yearn to emulate. May your blessings to me come, Guru Pema Siddhi Om. Maya bling was under Paritse, Deshin Pema Orkizaye. Jason Nama Urgen Trupe Kuritzin Pavo Kandro Jordanse. Yunzen Chingi Lobse Shepsuso. Welcome, hello. Yeah. We're going to chat a little bit tonight, and just a little reminder, I haven't yet bought the big Zoom monthly, so if you're watching by Zoom, we'll go for 45 minutes, log out, log back in, and then continue if it goes longer. But the other idea is we're just going to do a brief talk and then a brief guided meditation. So it covers everything. We're very grateful to have this Dharma Center and to have all this amazing technology at our fingertips where we can, be so close and also have such a beautiful sacred place here. There's a lot of mental unrest and ill ease in the world today. Why is that? Because it's in the mind, and meditation is the marvelous antidote, the marvelous way to transform, completely become free of all of our mind-made sufferings. How much of our sufferings is mind-made? Well, there's kind of like this more material idea, like, oh, if my house is under an avalanche, then it's not really my mind that made the suffering. And they call that like an act of God, which usually means just like an imbalance of nature. Something in the elements has become imbalanced and there's suffering. But the real cause, in the sense, is the attachment, and that the impermanence of the elements is something inevitable. The elements, we live by their grace, and if we're falling afoul of them, you know, any of the elements can, in their wrathful aspect, be affecting the impermanence. So at the beginning, we're wanting to have this good relationship with the elements and realize it's an interdependence. And curiously enough, there's 5 basic elements in the Buddhist cosmology, and also 5 skandhas that we use to analyze and deduce or come to a realization of the selflessness of the individual. This isn't a coincidence. This is a marvelous cosmic unity, points to a cosmic unity. And the way we can overcome our negative emotions, there's 3 levels of skillfulness in working with the negative emotions. And at any point we can work at the level that works for us. That's the main thing, is our negative emotions, when they're bossing us around, when we are getting our identity based on them, sure enough, they're going to set us up for present and future sufferings. But Buddha gave us these, demonstrated the skillfulness of working with them in terms of renunciation, in terms of antidotes, in terms of transformation. And then, of course, there's also the most exalted, speediest, but we have to save that. Because we just want to work with what we can work with. So, of course, if my problem is lust and attachment, and this is kind of curiously what springtime seems to be about. We're in the season of wood from the Chinese point of view, and everything is flourishing and expanding and blossoming. The bunny rabbits are jumping around. But if lust and attachment is my problem, I can choose to just not go there, the renunciation part of it. And the option of celibacy and monk nun style of living, it supports that. And it turns out it's quite an act of will to overcome, to renounce these negative emotions, which we have, in a way, hardwired. You know, it's in the limbic system. But fortunately, they can be overcome, and then gradually they're subdued, they're diminishing less and less, and until it's no longer a problem, it's not arising. The antidotes, like if we're using Mahayana, and it's hard to, when it's already charged up, when I have the context to support my lustfulness, and I'm already like in the movement of it. It's not just a thought. It becomes an emotion. It becomes a movement of energy within the body. The emotions are like that. But if I'm aware that that's my problem and I can work skillfully with it before I'm in the grip of it, then I can apply little antidotes. And one of the antidotes famously, also in renunciation, is to observe the hidden dissatisfactoriness of our object of attachment. And it requires a little bit of logic, a little bit of look. But if you've seen any of the paintings by Alex Gray, he has this beautiful, like, exploded view of the human. And when we look at anatomy, when we're looking at a cadaver, when you're in med school, you take apart a body and look at all the anatomical features. It's in no way attractive. There's nothing about that. And that's what we all look like without this superficial covering. Oh, thank you, so kind.
I just thought maybe you were parched or
That's
weary.
awesome. Thanks so much. So that's one way to develop renunciation. Also, the strengthening of the antidote. You have something like working within you that's going to counter the potential strength of the negative emotions as they arise. And they're various for the various emotions. Like the basic negative emotions are attachment, aversion, ignorance, jealousy, and pride. This is like our little constellation that we hang ourselves on to one degree or the other. And irreverentially, kind of offhandedly, they say, oh, so the Hinayana, they specialize in overcoming attachment. And the Mahayana, they specialize in overcoming aversion. But the Vajrayana goes to the root of it. They say you wouldn't have either of those if you don't have ignorance, and overcomes that as its basic object. That's a very simplistic, kind of oversimplified version, because they all intermingle, and they all each yana is complete, can result in a complete awakening. So then the emotional toxin of aversion then runs the gamut of mild irritation. I would prefer if that wasn't, in my field, to I hate you, I'm going to kill you, the whole spectrum. But it is overcome with loving kindness. That the large scale view of being reborn lifetime after lifetime means we had a mother, we had a father. And in the animal realm, many times even the both parents will be involved with their care. But the mother, of course, is going to be always like taking the hit, taking the risks to support her young and make sure they're doing well. So Mother Sentient Beings is the Buddhist short for reminding ourselves that we have this bond of relatedness, of relationship from beginningless time, from beginningless rebirths. That means every little creature, every big creature, every big bigot who has adopted very harmful views, they all at one time or another were a loving parent. So this feeling of having a debt of gratitude to all the beings then provides the basis for the development of compassion, loving kindness. And this allows us to, when we really work at that and look at that way, look at relations that way, it's harder to harbor the grudge, harder to get into the spin of aversion. When we're dealing with the mental toxin of ignorance, then we have to recognize the preciousness of the human rebirth. Among the 6 realms of rebirth, we're saying actually the most favorable for spiritual advancement is the human realm. Being reborn as a human is more optimal than even in the God's realm. In the God's realm, they have rebirth that lasts for thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years, tens of thousands of years. But they're just too blissed out and too stuck up to have any problem. The really only problem they face is the suffering of change. Like, we have sufferings to a greater or lesser extent in the human realms, which pop in and out continually. And we have the intelligence to observe that and take that as a cue for something that we need to go and investigate. First noble truth is that there is suffering. Buddha didn't say life is suffering like some curse, but that we need to acknowledge when there is suffering, that's what it is. And to discover what the cause is. And to work intelligently at extracting ourselves from that cause. And that is what Buddha demonstrated, that it is entirely possible to become 100% free from that cause. And that's called like realization, liberation, nirvana, arhatship, or Buddhahood. The Buddhahood is not something far away and far off, because all beings have Buddha nature. The Buddha nature is the basis of the mind of all the sentient beings. Sentience is the thought processes and the karma formations that covers over, that is on the surface of that essence which is primordially enlightened. So your Buddha nature and Buddha's Buddha nature is not anything deficient. There's nothing superior about Buddha's Buddha nature. He just let it fully manifest, fully actualize. And all of the potentials, all the qualities are inherent within it, not needing to be added. This is really good news. This is the option that so many people don't understand that they have. This is my little Dharma soapbox. Everybody needs to know this, but know it in the proper context. Because that Buddha nature is quite obscured by the habit, by the habitual nature of our thought and negative emotions and past karmas, which we're still navigating. And if we've tried to break a habit, we've gotten into a little pattern. It's not even a big one. Okay, my door on my funky old car doesn't open from the outside. It opens from the inside. So if I remember, I roll my window down and I can reach in and open it. But there's still so many times because I'm in the habit of opening my car door. I'm just, it's already been a couple days and I can't stop the body action of opening it. So the body action, we can use that in our advantage also. That's the preliminary practice, the famous Nundro. That's the Vajrayana expedient method, going right at the heart of the problem. If we can set up a emotion, an energy of habit and activity, which runs contrary to our ordinary samsaric world of view, and it's of sufficient energy, then we don't have to live in just the total quietude, like I can't deal with all these stupid people, and their loud noises. I have to be in this quiet little nook. You can be a Buddha, great, on the top of a mountain solo, and but then when you got to deal with the folks and the requirements, the social requirements and so forth, that's where it really comes to the test. But fortunately, in the Vajrayana, we have these skillful activities that allow us to lay the foundation for positive habits. So when I'm saying, like, when you come from where it's at, you can become a habitat. So not just from your habits, but your habitat where you live becomes a refuge. But while we're still in samsara, we want to take refuge in something miraculously, brilliantly that appears within samsara. We have contact with this. Buddha manifested in a human form and was brave bodhisattva lifetime after lifetime after lifetime up till the age of 36, had his enlightenment, then he's Buddha. And then people would ask him, oh, are you a god? You're just so glowing. And he's like, nope. Are you a human? He would say, nope. He's awakened. Different order. He's only identified with that Buddha nature. I'm only identified with my suffering sentient being worldview. Sure enough, it's gonna bring suffering because of impermanence. We have this precious human rebirth. It was because of some amazing store of positive karma in past lives, and now we're just burning it up. The good karma, the good times that come, is how we get rid of our good karma that we've done. Burning up. And then the good thing about bad karma is also little hardship, little things we can, this is like for our Stoic approach, little hardship, little difficulty that we overcome is also purifying past negative karmas. So Nundro practice, it seems like a little bit of a hardship. They're saying, usually we do prostrations. We start with this physical way of showing homage and reverence and so much of the focus of creature comforts and looking just gorgeous is based on the body, based on our physical skandha. And then we're touching back in on the 5 skandhas: form, feeling, perception, cognition, and consciousness. The 5 skandhas is how we go to the root of ignorance and completely finish with it. And that's something which happens in meditation when you're in the stage of seeing. We're really seeing, how is it that this me, myself, and I, me, mine, myself entity can exist? What is it based on? And we already gave a big hint, it's a body. And then the body starts to spread out into our stuff that we own. Like if we're walking back to my car, you haven't seen my car, I might say, oh yeah, that's me. Pointing to the car. And you'd know, we'd all know exactly what that meant. And sure enough, if I get a flat tire, it's like, oh, it's gonna hurt me. I feel it. I'm like, oh, so inconvenient. But this me, okay, like if we take it out there, it's ridiculous. Okay, the car can go away and there's still me. But then if I lose a hand, okay, that's a little rough. But if I lose a pinky, there's a little piece of me. No, it's a little piece of meat. At that point, you know, I can't get to the microsurgeon in time. It's icky. I'm gonna like, not cherish it, not work on, you know, filing it and making it look beautiful. And then progressively, it's like, where is that me? Okay, it's not the body, so it must be the feelings. But then we see the feelings are always changing. If it's the me, happy me, then it would be happy all the time. But sometimes my feelings are upsetting and difficult. So it can't be the feelings, is where the me is. And you go through and look, after you've done the samadhi, after we've done the meditation, and we have really calm mind and all the blah, blah, blahs settle out, you can answer these questions with certainty for yourself, with your own investigation. That's the wonder. You just don't have to take it on faith at all. There's nothing of a blind leap of faith. It's reasonable. It's meant to be reasonable. And you can validate it for yourself with your own intelligence. You can do it. Smarter than you think, especially with the calm abiding. We get into those states and there's just so much lucidity, clarity in the mind. What are you going to do that? Well, I could make $1 million. I know exactly the perfect next app that everyone needs. Okay, relax. You turn over that clarity and stability into something that's going to be of lasting benefit for yourself and others. And that is to see through the me, myself, I illusion decisively. Oh. That's what Fred said. That's how he lived. That's how he died. He was a beautiful guy. So where are we? We're overcoming our negative emotions through their antidotes. The antidote to pride is seeing equality. The antidote to jealousy is rejoicing in others' good fortune. Being honest about these negative emotions, I think, is really important. And there's a little bit I wanted to say about the animal realm. And I've seen like really great thinkers, great essayists saying we should all just be like the animals. That would be better for the humans. And I have this joke. I mean, it's kind of this silly joke of the apes hanging around in the trees, and then one of them, is foraging around and finds these mushrooms on the cow patties and eats one, gives them to his friends, and suddenly they start talking to each other. Hey, your name is George. Like, oh my God, I never knew that. Look, what are we saying? We can talk. Okay, I have this great idea. Why don't we come down from the trees and follow the canine packs around? We can learn how to hunt. We change our diet. We have more yang energy, and we can invent tools. We can use these tools, harness fire. We can invent the wheel and domesticate crops. Then we can all form together in cities, states, and then develop these ideologies which establish us as superior than all of the creatures. And then we can all look at little screens in our boxes and just watch each other on these little screens in our boxes. What do you think? And the other monkey looks at me, he's like, nah. He's like, exactly, right? And they go back up into the trees and they're chilling.
What about the dogs?
Dogs would have never become domesticated. And that's usually how like these essayists get their hint. They're like, oh, look at how happy the dogs are. Because they're domesticated. They're just, their job is to be hella cute and lovable. And maybe that's a good enough, that is a step in the right direction, being more loving with one another would make the world go a lot smoother. But to throw out the intelligence, the language, and the so forth that we have, there's even a Jane's addiction. For all you Dharma punkers out there, we would make good pets. We'd make good pets. Was a pretty cutting commentary, social commentary from an otherwise irreprehensible artist. But that's not the point. Because the animals in the animal realm, in the wild, they're always working on not getting killed, not getting eaten. It's constant. Or looking for somebody to kill. And they obviously they don't have a moral problem about it because it's their livelihood. They're built, they're in their niche where they got the talents. The only thing those marvelously adapted things can do is grab rodents, on the fly. They can't use it to type on a keyboard. They wear them out. So that's my little plug for humans, and no diminishing of the animals. The animals have Buddha nature, absolutely each and every one, down to the smallest gnat. Each of the smallest creatures wants their own life to continue. So whenever it's possible, we're being saving lives, we're protecting lives, not taking lives. So that's the antidote. We talked about renunciation, antidote, and then transformation. Transformation becomes possible within the Vajrayana when we have the basis of selflessness of the individual and the selflessness of phenomena. And we can understand it initially at an intellectual level, and then investigate, examine, and experience it then comes the wisdom. My buddy Fred was famous for saying, like, there's the knowledge, there's the information that we need to impart. We need to have understandably explained to us, and something that we can really take into our being. And that comes through the experience. If we're just having emptiness experiences and no context for it, woohoo, it's crazy making. In society, we're kind of required to have a little me, myself, and I handle that others can handle us with, and we can handle others. We know how to handle ourselves around others. And if it's just book knowledge about some exalted state, I haven't experienced, then I'm just talking about, like a tour guide who's just read it out of books, Oh, you're gonna love Rome. I can tell you all about Rome. I've read about it. But you're like bumbling around the city like, Dad, Schmuck didn't tell me how to get around here, actually. But of course, when these come together, then we have wisdom. Then wisdom needs to come together with compassion. That's how we're not remaining. Wisdom is not remaining in samsara. Wisdom is the ticket out of samsara. Compassion is not just blissing out in nirvana. Compassion is the bodhicitta, the bodhisattva resolve to again and again manifest in samsara till we're all good, till everyone's all good. Heard the good news about Buddha nature, pass it on. Find out how to language it. How does that land on you? How is it we could not seem, there's no Buddhist meme. There's no, like off the bat, but Buddha natures could be. I don't know. I'm going out on a limb here. Don't quote me. Compassionate bodhisattvas return into samsara time and time again. We're so very fortunate. We're so blessed to have these teachers who come to us. And that's why sometimes Tibetan Buddhism is called Lamaism by the Westerners. Like, they're really crazy about their lamas. They put them on pedestals. Yep, because the culture is based on wisdom. The culture values, like, they make their lamas their celebrities, not just because they have the loudest rock music, or they're the most violent, or they have the most money. That's kind of like the definition of a barbaric society. And Gandhi was asked, returning from the West, and when he came back to India, the reporters asked, "What did you think of Western civilization?" He says, "I think it would be a good idea." And yet we do have traditions of benevolence and so forth. I kid, because we're in it, we're really deep in it here, the Western worldview. We're so blessed though that we have, again, I'm being way too ironic. We have benefited from Chairman Mao. So hard on Tibet that the Dalai Lama had to leave. All the great teachers, so many great teachers had to escape. We benefited inadvertently, the West, because they're accessible. They come here, they're in India, they've set up centers throughout Europe, the US, and so forth. And in the Tibetan, they say how really the part of the view is to see your teacher as a living Buddha. If you can look at them that way, it doesn't work with a dog's tooth teacher like me. If you don't know the story, we can go back. Oh, you don't get, okay, we'll do the dog's tooth story after the break. But like with the Dalai Lama and so forth, Choki Nyima, they really, like, I'm looking at them as if they were a Buddha, and it works, because they're just nonstop wisdom and compassion. But that's something we do for ourselves. Like, if you can see your teacher as a Buddha, then you get the blessings of the Buddha. If you see your teacher as a human being, then you get the blessings of another human being. And human beings can give one another blessings. That's something we've been missing from all this isolation, social isolation, is the human contact blessings. But they say these lamas might be as wise and as compassionate as the Buddha, but because they manifest in our world, in our lives, 3D, in the flesh, even more compassion than the Buddha. Not to value, not to judge. Buddha's Buddha nature is as good as everyone's Buddha nature. But this act of bodhisattva courage to take rebirth in samsara till everyone's done, not giving up on one single sentient being. That kind of resolve, that kind of commitment. Is very inspiring. And I think we're coming up on our break here. They might, well, actually, because we might be under the number, we might be able to continue. So why don't we I'll just open it up and see if there's any questions on any of that, clarifications, or something which in no way matters. I'd be willing to love to hear from you.
Interesting. I was listening to like almost the exact like a similar talk last night, which was the Dalai Lama wrote a book. So it was an audio book actually. So, but it was like the introduction part of it it's like the basics of Buddhism or something like that, 101. And but he laid it out very similarly, where it just using our own, basically just from logic. So what do we know? That
Yeah.
things are impermanent.
Yeah.
And that there's conditions that create, dependent origination. And so what's observable with what we already know, just with our any person.
Yeah. What's reasonable?
Yeah. And so I just think that's amazing how they just kind of like a detective just kind of worked backwards,
Right.
like what do we know about this situation?
Yeah.
This human existence, and that we can piece together. And just from that, got extrapolated, continued to extrapolate all the way, through it. So it was good to hear you kind of go over that and sort of, because it is kind of complicated. It's very logical, but there's steps.
Steps.
And
I'm leaping. I'm assuming we'll make those connections, and it's really good to go to the sources, of course, like His Holiness, and the treatises, the original great masters, who wrote these. My favorite, of course, Longchenpa. He's 14th century Buddha, like a fully enlightened being who wrote his experience. And there's 7 great treasuries of Longchenpa that I'd love to unpack at some point, when we're all up there. When it's because there's a certain stage in the meditation where what he's communicating is perfectly, it's just what we need to support the meditation. But it's exalted. It's very, very sheer. His name translates into English as vast expanse. That's who he is. He's not a human. He's an expanse of wisdom, like infinite expanse, expansiveness. So that's again, like when we get to this point, the Nundro practice is so important. And last month, we were talking about Vajrasattva practice, and that's very much like a cornerstone of the Nundro, but it itself is this preparation to the Guru Yoga. Guru Yoga is the essence of the Nundro, and it turns out pretty much, again, Lamaism, the essence of Vajrayana is to embody the realization of your teacher. The teacher is always pointing you back towards your inner teacher, your real Buddha nature is flawless. And we have this expedient external guru in the Nundro that I'm most familiar with. There's different for different lineages, but Pamasambhava is the object of refuge and the object of purification, and then the object of the Guru Yoga, blessings, like he's giving blessings of body, speech, and mind into our 3 places. And it seems like, oh, I'm getting something. We build up this visualization, and we really feel I'm receiving this thing, these experiences, these purifications, and these blessings from the Guru. And then Guru is merging with me, and our minds become inseparable. That mind-to-mind seal was something really exotic and amazing when I was studying Chan. It's like this removed kind of secretive thing. It's like, oh, I could get that after I sat Chan meditation for about 20 years. But it's right up front in Vajrayana. They're like, oh, this is a path home to your selfless self, your Buddha nature. And the importance of emptiness and the foundation of understanding the selflessness of the individual means that the identification with one's inner guru, with one's Buddha nature, doesn't become some further ego trip, most importantly. Spiritual materialism, that was Chogyam Trungpa's pet peeve, what he was pointing out and cutting through right from the start, is that the ordinary me, myself, and I wants to drag itself into the spiritual realm. And yeah, I'm going to be such a spiritual dude. I'm going to be ultra spiritual, you know. I'm so woke. It's a problem. And Buddha was so smart. All these teachers are so smart. The Four Noble Truths is just so applicable. Every point, it works. And can't be misinterpreted when it's really understood the way it's meant to be, the way it was communicated, the logic of it is flawless, and the way it works on minds is flawless, and returns us to that flawless nature. Which is ready to burst forth, is ready to shine forth when the me, myself, and I put-ons, when we stop putting our put on. It's really like that after a while. You're putting me on. Yeah, the me is putting me on. And why they call it naked awareness. Ooh, now we're getting a little Dzogchen. Okay. I always try to keep, but you're a good crew. Okay, Nundro first. Nundro first. Because it's built into that. The practices of the Nundro, when it comes with blessings, naturally bring us back to that realization. We could do a little guided meditation. So we find a comfortable, erect, open posture. And this style of meditation is with eyes open. Mouth is slightly open. Teeth are slightly parted. Lips are slightly parted. And you're just present. And thoughts of the past have subsided. Thoughts of the future haven't not yet arrived. And in the present moment, you look at awareness. The thoughts that come and go, we just leave them alone. We don't do anything about them. We don't try to push them off. In fact, if we're really with that awareness, we could challenge. We're like, okay, go ahead. Let's see some of that. this and that thinking. And they kind of become a little bit more timid. They don't. They get eaten up, they get dissolved into that awareness, which is present. Open, spacious, accommodating. Where? Phenomena still arise externally, internally. We're aware. We're aware of how effortlessly the phenomena arise. And how effortlessly the awareness is present within the arisal of every phenomena. Thoughts and feelings, sensations, bodily, are like internal phenomena. Similarly, they arise effortlessly. If we're not entering into them, adding to them, pushing away from them, then that awareness is also effortlessly there already in their arisal. So this ability to recognize awareness is something we have all the time, anywhere, and can provide this little breather, this little space in the usual habit pattern of mind, especially if we're dipping into it, recognizing more often. It's good to have the set meditation times of longer duration, so you really get your wins and everything settled. But once you have that, then try this style, shorter periods, but more often. Is to have a digital watch that would beep on the hour, and then I'd beep and I'd take a pause and recognize. And it can be so easy, so quick, then you don't even need to breathe or pause or whatever, just the recognition. Super secret. You'd be in the middle of whatever and have a meditation. And then we begin to bring that awareness into the life, integrate it with the life and all the experience and all the events. Otherwise, we're sitting, okay, really good sitter, 2 hours a day. But the rest of the 22 hours, we're still habituating ourselves to being a sentient being, and it'll take lifetimes. We want the fast track. And I have it on really good authority with the proper motivation, the proper context with the best teacher. 6 months. Total Buddhahood. That's what I heard. Sign me up. I might already be too old for it though. That's the hard thing. You gotta have that young, sprightly mind able to be trained. It's a little training. Retraining. Taming. Okay. Any questions? Anything that I could help with in any way? Mundane, psycho-spiritual.
I have a question.
Sure.
So I had an experience recently. We'll just say that this person has bad karma coming to them.
Mm.
Like the worst, but and they're actually, you can see it in their life, like there's these health problems that are just happening. So just choosing to go, doing harm to people and just not good at all.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was just but I could see his humanity, and that underneath that, all that, there was, the sameness. There was something, that I could have compassion for.
Good.
And so it was just, I actually, so I went with this person to the emergency room twice. They're dying of, I would say they're dying of a broken heart. They've damaged their heart, essentially.
Oh.
And yeah, and through the harm that they've done to other people and just confusion but it was very, very interesting to interact with this person from a place of compassion, to kind of see like the effect that had on them. And so, like sitting with them with the EKG machine or whatever, and sort of just that kind of, like, if I focused on it, like the numbers would change, to then more, to better heart rate and all that stuff. But so that was a really interesting experience. And I guess my question is like, I could have actually been in danger myself, but I felt like there was a sense of, if I met that energy with pure compassion, like it did something, like something happened, and something was, I was able to avoid that and sort of, so yeah, it was a confusing experience, but I learned something from it.
No, I mean, the truth of suffering.
Right.
It's sometimes curious. I mean, there's this also thing with the judge. We can't judge, and we don't have like pity. Oh, poor you, in that way, because sometimes Nirmanakayas, beings, Buddhas can show up in different forms and like remind us of the suffering, even, like we can't say. What's ultimately bad karma for someone? What's ultimately good karma for someone? Like this story with the farmer who loses a horse, and the neighbors are like, "Oh, bad karma on you." And then the horse comes back with this whole bunch of wild horses, and suddenly the farmer's got a good group of horses now. And they're like, "Whoa, good karma, dude." He's like, "I don't know." He says that at the beginning too. But then the son is breaking one of the wild horses and gets bucked off and breaks a leg, and like, "Oh, bad karma." So it's like, it's hard for us to say ultimately, what's going to come of it. But it's really marvelous that you're going there with this person and able to, as best you can, show compassion. That can mean a lot. It can mean a lot to someone who's in that state. It's tricky to not get, hooked in. It's like the wisdom part of it guides the other paramitas, the generosity and the patience and all these things come to their utmost when we see the wisdom of no self, of individual and phenomena, but the phenomena also lack inherent existence. That's something we imbue, that's something we project on it, because we're busy projecting it on ourselves.
That was an exercise, certainly in empathy, like how could I see the sameness in someone that, someone here with a very violent past. And, but that, so it was working that idea of like, okay, well, if every being is worthy of compassion, this person is. Yeah. So. Yeah,
and sometimes compassion can be a good kick in the rear.
Right.
There's no idiot compassion. Like. Right.
Yeah.
It's compassion from a space of power. It's curious. Like the wisdom and the compassion and the ability. It's not power over, but it's like capability. I want to be able to affect skillfully. So those all come together, and they are all naturally present within your Buddha nature within the Buddha nature of everyone. Nothing needed to be added.
It was an interesting experience of kind of like being protected, I think, from danger in, like a tool in my toolbox.
Right.
That I
Yeah.
didn't know really that I had. It was, yeah.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a very common experience, or like, I don't know, I'm sure there's a lot of Buddhists that go through something similar.
Mm.
Because sitting on a mountain is one thing, but like you get, if you're
In it.
if you're in it, amongst.
And that's where you get to shine. I mean, you really like the jewels of the stars are there because of the dark.
I felt like I was able to help, you know what I mean? Like that was my intention. So yeah, at least if it was for a short period of time, physical.
Yeah, and it's so hard. I mean, when when it's a karmic thing, Buddha himself said, in terms of the karma of beings, he can't intercede. He's not there to remove the karma. Like beings' karma, they receive for their own benefit, for their own transformation. Buddha didn't make the karma. No one makes the karma. Karma is just action. It means action and reaction. Any other? Then we can dedicate. And the positivity of this, may it go to all beings wherever it's needed and bring them relief from suffering in a lasting way, establishing them in happiness, joy, equanimity. Om Dade Dade Ban Dade Swaha. Jaya Jaya Siddhi Siddhi Pala Pala Ha Ha Shasana Mama Koling Sami